Hello, greetings everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make a traditional challah, which is a nice bread if you are a little short on time and want bread for a gathering or a gift or just to bring to a dinner with some friends. It can be done start to finish in probably 3 hours or so, given your ability to manage some time and how you proof the product. So we're looking at all the ingredients right here. It's a pretty basic and rich dough bread. I'll put the list of ingredients down below in the description, but it's going to be 4 cups of sifted flour, some sugar in there. I'll just put it down below. It'll be easier to demonstrate as I go. And the flow of the ingredients will be the flow of the recipe, and you'll see how that works out. Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna have to be the cameraman and the baker, so I'm gonna run back and forth a little bit here, but the first thing we wanna do is start getting our yeast to bloom. So what I like to do, and this works for me, is just take 1 cup of water. We're just gonna microwave it for 30 seconds. That'll get us about to the 98 to 105 degrees we're looking for our yeast. It's good to start the yeast blooming because as you sift your flour to make the dough, it'll basically come up. It'll take 5 or 10 minutes at that 100 degree, plus or minus 5 degrees or so to bloom properly. So we have baker's yeast here. This is the last of what I bought last year, I believe. You can buy a nice organic yeast, like a pound for $6, $7. 30 seconds, 1 cup of water. Feels a little warm to me, so I'm gonna do is pour a little out and add a little water to bring it to where we need to be. That feels better. It should feel body temperature. So to help feed the yeast, we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of sugar. This is an enriched dough because the sugar, it has an oil in the form of, or fat in the form of olive oil, eggs. It's very good, nice dough. Makes very nice toast with that sugar. So we have our warm water, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 2 teaspoons of our baker's yeast here. And we'll just stir that together. The yeast will start eating the sugar, it'll start propagated in there. We can tell because it'll get a lot more voluminous as it grows in there. So we'll set this kind of aside for now. I'm done with our yeast for today. This is my KitchenAid mixer. You can mix this by hand, and perhaps I'll try that sometime just to show how it's done, but the KitchenAid makes it a lot easier with the dough hook. You can knead the dough. I usually do 5 minutes, and it's fine at that point, nice and glossy. This is a delicate bread, so we're gonna wanna sift it. With my sourdoughs, I won't sift it. I don't care. It's a little more rustic that way, but this will help it rise as well. So we're gonna do 4 cups of. I have a King Arthur flour here. You could level it off with a knife, but I always adjust it as I go after mixing it, so, and it's kind of by a feel almost, so there's variables such as the egg size, so just 4 cups, don't worry too much. There's 3 and 1 more. And at the end I'll demonstrate 1 or 2 ways to braid this dough up so you can have a really beautiful loaf. This is a new apartment, so I'm not super familiar with the oven, and it doesn't have convection settings, so hopefully I can get a really good golden brown on this as well. So we have our 4 cups of flour sifted. We're gonna add 1/4 cup of sugar. This is like a brown cane sugar, slightly better than a super white bleached sugar. We're gonna wanna add 2 eggs plus 1 yolk to this. These are just large brown eggs I got from the grocery store. Here's our second egg. And now we'll add 1 yolk and reserve the white to wash this later. So just split it like we were gonna drop it in there, but catch the egg yolk in half of the shell like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. Drop that yolk in and you're all done with the eggs now. So the ingredients is 2 teaspoons of salt, which helps the flavor, bring everything together. It also helps some preservation. And I'm also gonna add a 1/4 cup of olive oil. This is just an organic extra virgin. Normally I'd use a liquid measuring cup, but that's occupied, so I'll use a dry measuring cup, which is fine. This little spout makes it pour slowly, but 1/4 cup. And all these ingredients will be listed with their volumes down below in the description. As you can see, our yeast is already starting to bloom up a little bit. Organize a little bit here. I'll throw these in the sink. Hi there, welcome back. Our yeast has given us a nice little bloom here. It's risen enough. I mean, some people don't even do this step and they probably get good results. I like to do this because then we know everything's active and going now. So we add this to our prior dry and wet ingredients. There's that. Like I said, you can knead this on a table till it's nice and shiny and smooth, but if you have access to a mixer or don't want to do that method, this comes in really handy. So I'm just combining this really quick just to make the work of the dough hook a little bit easier. I'm using a bowl scraper. It's already started to come together. It's a bit of a shaggy mess right now, which is good. Some of that gluten's starting to develop. And I'll just run this on low for 5 or so minutes, sometimes up to 7, but like I said, we might have to adjust it a little with flour later. And then 5 minutes gives you good time to start cleaning your kitchen up. So we're just gonna pop this on low here. We'll just let that go for a couple minutes. And here we are, we're about 3 minutes in right now, and this actually looks really good. It's pulling from the sides. It's not stuck to the bottom and twisting. If it were a little wet, that would kind of be the case. And at that point I would stop it and add maybe two tablespoons to a 1/4 cup of flour and start it up again. But this looks really nice. We can see that it's completely pulling from the sides, which is good because we basically have a dough. We want it to be pliable. We want it to kind of be like a really soft Play-Doh so we can make our braids in order to braid our challahs. So I'm gonna let this run for 2 more minutes, so we'll be at 5 minutes at that point. And while this is finishing up, what I like to do is I'll just turn my oven on to preheat it. And I have a metal gauge in my oven. It's not actually in my oven, but I'll throw it in there now. And this metal gauge, I'll just preheat the oven until it's like 150 degrees or a little lower, just to start proofing it. That'll help us be able to start braiding this challah within an hour instead of waiting for a few hours for it to rise. So I highly recommend that step too. So just turn the oven on. It'll start climbing to 350, but as soon as it reaches like 120, 150 degrees, you can turn it off and we'll throw our dough in there. Okay, so our 5 minutes have passed. We have a nice smooth dough. It's a little shiny. It's coming off the bowl nice and clean. Even off the dough hook nice and clean, which is a nice bonus. So we barely measured those cups and we got a nice result there. So all I'm gonna do here is just kind of shape a quick ball just so we can proof this dough now. Really simple. Doesn't matter the shape. We're just throwing it in here. A tiny bit of oil, maybe half a teaspoon. Just kind of roll it in there so it's nice and coated. It'll prevent it from drying and forming a little bit of a skin. I'm gonna set that there. So my preheated oven is now at 100 degrees with my metal gauge there, which is a good proofing temperature. I'd say 100 to 120. It's a gorgeous day outside, so I'm gonna go do some errands, which will give the dough some time to proof. So I'm just gonna cover this in a saran wrap or whatever you use to keep a nice airtight seal. We're gonna swing around and run into our garbage can. Take our nice wrapped up, do it right in the mixing bowl that we made it in. I'll throw a towel over just to make sure that my plastic doesn't come off. There we go for 1 hour. Basically, we want the dough to double, then we'll punch it down and divide it into 8 braids to make a nice challah. Okay, so our dough's had about an hour to rise. It was rising at 100, 120 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm sure it's cooled off since then, but let's take a look at it. Oops, new feature. Maybe we didn't get a good before picture, but this definitely is doubled now. I'll save that for a little later. Nice and airy. We're gonna work on this table here. Let's make a little space and let's realign our camera. Okay, so we're gonna divide this into, well, 4, but then I'll divide it in half after that. We're gonna weigh out our grams. We have 1155, so I'm gonna have to pause the video and do a little math there. Okay, so we're gonna divide this into quarters. They're gonna be 288 grams each approximately. A little heavy. 271, 288, 266, 288, 252, 278, 286, close enough, and this should be about 288, 282, 291, close enough. We no longer need our scale. So time isn't of the essence, but it's good to roll these out before they start making kind of seams where you've put pieces together to get that 288 grams or whatever it is, 290, whatever yours works out to be. So I'm just gonna roll these into 4 logs. I could divide it by 8, but I always just do this. I divide 4, and then I cut these in half to have 8. This is an eyeball measurement, of course. We saved our plastic, and just while we're working with 1 loaf, we can lightly flour one side of the plastic so it won't stick, and then we can put our 4 pieces aside. Let's keep them from drying out. Okay, so I want to make sure we're in frame here. So now we're going to roll these out. You can do counter twist or just roll out. If you're getting little seams like that, I found it helps to get your hands fairly wet. And it'll kind of help smooth it out a little. So as that relaxes, we can work another one. And when that one relaxes a little, we can work another one. And then we'll get these rolled out to like 18 inches or so, 1.5 feet. And I'm going to first do the one I'm better at, which is a round challah. Round challah, I guess, in the Jewish tradition is only for special holidays, but it's much easier for me to make, and it's good for slicing. It's a nice loaf. And it's good for consistent loaves if you want to give something to a friend, unless you get good at the other braiding efforts, which I'm not the best at right now. So now we're going to have our 4 logs. And in the background are 4 braids. In the background I have the oven preheating again a little bit just to get it for our second proof at 120 degrees. Actually, I'm going to turn that off now so it doesn't get too hot. These will be about like your thumb thickness, about maybe a little thicker. They're not perfect, but it'll come out great. So we have take 2 here, take 2 and cross them. And I think I might move the camera for a better view of this. Actually, that looks pretty good. So we're gonna do opposites. We're gonna bring this one over, so then the opposite corner here, we're gonna tuck under like that. So we have, if you can see that, what we're basically gonna do is take the one that's underneath, which would be this one, this one, this one, and this one, and bring them over the neighbor, going reverse clockwise right now. So now we have this one, this one, this one, and this one underneath. So now we're going to bring those in the opposite direction over the top of their neighbor. Whichever one is underneath goes over top the one that's on top. This one is underneath now, as is this one, and this one. So we'll bring the ones that are underneath over top their neighbors. So we work clockwise and counterclockwise in that fashion until we run out. Underneath over. Underneath over, underneath over. Now that we're very short, I just tuck it underneath and it's fine. It'll look really nice once it gets that second proof. So we can toss it. We're on our silk pad. We're gonna do a second proof, so we'll set that there. And there's so many different braids you can do. There's 3 braids, 4 braids, different ways to do 4 braids, 6 braids, 8 braids, etc. 7 braids. There's so many tutorials online. I'm just doing these quickly so we can have bread today. And any leftovers I slice and freeze, so I always have lots of bread in the freezer. This will be like the traditional loaf you usually see when you see a challah for sale in a bakery. I'm forewarning that I'm not the best at it. So we're doing 4 more braids, obviously. Gotta get them nice and thin. Nothing needs to be perfect, they'll come out great. So we're gonna pinch these all kind of together at the top. This part I don't know yet, I've gotta figure that out. We have 2 and 2, so we're gonna take, let me think now, it's 3 over there. So let me pause this, I gotta look this up, I'm sorry friends. Okay, what I had in mind was right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're gonna bring 3 over 4. And then we're gonna pick up 2, and 1 becomes 3. So once again, it'll be 3 over 4, pick up 2, 1 becomes 3. 3 over 4, pick up 2, 1 becomes number 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 over 3, pick up 2, 1 becomes 3. 4 over 3, sorry, 1 pick up 2, 1 becomes 3. 4 over 3, pick up 2, 1 becomes 3. 4 over 3, pick up 2, 1 becomes 3. And you can just pinch this together. Sometimes you can roll it out. I don't know, my friends. We're just gonna set that right there. It looks like it's gonna be beautiful, I can tell. So what we're gonna do is take our lightly floured plastic. I'm gonna set that on there. We're gonna put it back in the oven for just 10 minutes so they can have a second proof, get a little bigger, and then we'll crank our oven up to bake. And that's that. Okay, so our second proof is all good now. It's been 10 or 15 minutes. I just turned the oven on to 350. Gotta remember my oven's broken apparently. Shucks. You can see they've already doubled in size, and once they bake, they'll double even more. Let's get a good view of these. warm. So since we floured that, if we are gentle and slow, we shouldn't stick it all. We have 2 nice second-proof challahs here, 2 different 4 braids. We're gonna take the egg wash. It was just the white from our 3 eggs. We had the 3 yolks and 2 whole eggs. I'm just gonna liberally wash these 2 loaves. I like to wash one, let it dry, wash the other, and then go back to the first one before applying some toppings. You can bake these straight as. If I do bake these without any toppings, I like to sprinkle a little kosher salt on them because it gives a nice bite on the top through the crust. So there's one done. Nice and liberal, lots of egg white. Give us a nice shiny finish. And I've mentioned earlier, this is a new apartment for my wife and I, so I'm not quite sure how the results will come out. My last oven had a convection setting, which gave a high fan, which would help brown any kind of food I was baking. So hopefully we do get a nice brown on these, but we'll see. And if not, I'll have to think of a different strategy from here on out. Okay, so this one's kind of dry. Usually there's more egg white than you need. I usually just microwave it and eat it. Just a chef's snack. So it's got a nice shine to it. I'm gonna throw some everything bagel seasoning on this one. This one has salt in it too, so it makes for a real nice crust. And the second one, go over one more time really quick. This is to help it, you know, finish, bake, and have a nice crust, but also is useful for helping things stick. So I'll do a little yin yang on this one. We'll do sesames. And we'll do some poppies. My oven's preheating to 350, so I won't turn the video back on until we're throwing these in. So there they are. There's our 2 challahs ready to go. So we're moving right along here. We're at 350 degrees. We're gonna pop these in for 15 minutes. I turn them halfway. That was with a convection oven. I don't know if it's important, but I'll just do it for consistency here. 350 degrees, 15 minutes, turn halfway, 15 more minutes, so 30 minutes total. Get a kitchen timer for 15 and we'll check back on that. Okay, so there's our first 15 minutes. We're gonna turn this loaf 180 degrees, these 2 loaves. They're getting some alright color without the fan, so that's a promising prospect. Kitchen timer, 15 more minutes, and then they're done. So we have bread in under 3 hours. Okay everyone, our 30 minutes is basically done. There's a minute left, but they smell and I peeked and they look super good. So we're turning off our oven, we're turning off our timer. Get some oven mitts here. Oh, these look very nice. They smell very nice. They proved a little different. My ropes are a little flatter than normal. Usually I have a little more roundedness on them, but let's put these somewhere where we can see them really well. So there we are, start to finish. Zoom in a little here. Here's our challahs. They take about 3 hours, like I said. I'm going to grab a couple implements here. So my ropes kind of almost grew into each other. I don't know if that's an effect of my oven or the proofing time here, or as I learn my new oven and bake all my regular recipes without it change anything, we'll see how it goes. I'm just gonna put these on a wire rack to help them cool. And apologies for any editing. This is all being done on a phone by myself, so I think we did all right. There they are. There's our challahs. 3 hours, you have something pretty fancy and nice you can bring to a dinner party or share with a friend or sell at a bake sale, etc., etc. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.